Hi guys! In today's video, I want to do a deep dive of the first 3 Wheel of Time episodes, and at the end I'll be doing a review for the 4th episode. And I thought it would be a very fun idea for me to do this type of video after I had some time to think things over, because a lot of things happen in the first 3 episodes and I really needed to take my time and just process everything that happens. So how I'll be doing this video is I'll walk you guys through all of the episodes, and I'm not going to be spoiling any of the books except for The Eye of the World and the things that happen up until this moment in the show. The first thing that I want to talk about is the beginning, the intro of the first episode, and it's the fact that, I don't know, it irks me that Moiraine says the arrogant when she's referring to the Aes Sedai and the whole breaking of the world thing that happens. But I'm just a bit annoyed because the women channelers did that as well, so they're both to blame. Even though Luz was the one, the Dragon Reborn was the one that broke it, still the blame should be parted equally between them, you know? And now the cold open of the first episode, it's rough. It's really rough. I like the actress that they chose for Liandrin, and I have nothing but praise to say of her, but it doesn't feel good. Like, the way it was edited, the way it was shot, everything just looks weird. It doesn't have the feel of the next episodes and the actual first episode. It's just, from my reader point of view, I get what's going on. I understand it's a Red Sister hunting a male channeler, but like, a person that hasn't read the books is just weird to start from that point. And I think it would have been nicer if the show started with the prologue from the book with Lucer and breaking the world, and that's more intriguing and more captivating rather than this weird shot that just, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. And when I started watching it, I had a lump in my throat. I was like, is this not going to be good? But I was pleasantly surprised after that. And yeah, I really liked the other 2 cold openings of the other 2 episodes. So it was just this first introduction to the world that I don't find it very fitting, and it's just weird. I don't like it. Especially since the guy doesn't do anything. You can say that maybe he was like shielded from the one power, but still it doesn't seem like a good opening for such a great story. I really enjoyed the next scene that we follow Egwene and how she's thrown in the river, which is very dangerous. I was like, is she going to drown? Is she going to like hit a rock on her way through the river? Is that safe? All you guys went through that? Okay, and I liked it. I really liked it. I like the foreshadowing that we got in those shots, and it's nice. It's not from the book, obviously, but like, I still like that it added that character of her wanting to be a wisdom, being willing to take huge risks, like jumping off a cliff into a very dangerous river. And then I loved the scene with Rand and Tam, the scene that we have in the book. It's just the fact that when Rand thinks he hears something up the slope, the editing of him getting his bow out is just really wonky. Like, it's too many frames in like such a short period. But I still like his interaction with his father and him saying that, I was like quirky. I was like a little kid that liked Egwene from the start, and it's just a sweet moment. And then we get to go to Whisperingen when we see Rand with his friends, and I really like that scene. It's really sweet, and I like the way that they communicate with each other and how their chemistry feels on screen. It's done very well. All the actors across the board do an amazing job with the roles that they have. But what I didn't like in the first episode, it was still the editing, because we get this scene with Rand and Mat and Perrin when Rand brings them their beer, and Rand just got into an argument with Egwene, and after that we get a scene with Lan, a scene with Egwene and Nynaeve, and then we cut back to the exact same scene with the boys in the exact same spot. And I don't understand why we just didn't like mesh the 2 scenes together, give them a little more dialogue, because it's just the scenes were so short and so cut off in between. Like, the editing was very weird. They didn't get to actually be in the scene and understand how it's working because it's just so short. Like, the scenes themselves are cool, but I would have liked them much longer as we get them in the further episodes, in the next episodes. But it's just it was a bit weird. And obviously the pacing of the whole episode is very fast. Like everything happens in an instant and it's insane. Like that was my main issue with the first episode, and I'm not being too critical because it's the first episode. People have to have a bit of time before they get used to how they need to pace things, and they get used to the whole process of building up a show. And that was my main issue, because it was just, you weren't giving enough time to understand why they're such good friends, why they have such an attachment to the Two Rivers place. And that was a bit off in my opinion. And now talking about the great parts of the first episode. On the first watch, I didn't cry throughout the whole 3 episodes, but on the second watch, I absolutely bawled my eyes out when Tam told, why do I want to say Perrin? When Tam told Lan. I cannot say Rand, Althor apparently. I bawled my eyes out when Tam told Rand the meaning of the Wheel of Time and why you have to relive and why it's so important. It's basically a blessing in disguise. It's such a great moment. It's such a great character moment. So another thing that I want to talk about is how the Beltane scene happened. I just really loved it. I loved the way we get to see how in sync Lan and Moiraine are. The choreography was so good. Like they work together so well. And I really loved Nynaeve when Atrala growled at her and she was like roar as well. And another scene that sticks with me is Mat running after his sisters because his parents were terrible, terrible people. And talking about Mat's parents being the worst people alive, let's get into the changes that we get to see from the first episode. To be honest, I'm not really that upset about Mat having bad parents because I think it adds something to the character, and I loved Mat from the first book of the series. Like he's one of my favorite, if not my favorite character in the series. I understand that Mat is not the greatest, most fleshed out character up until book 3, and I understand the fact that they needed something more to add to him in the TV show so you can understand and empathize with him. I like that. I like that they made him responsible for his family and he has to steal stuff for his sister. He's very protective, and I like to see that in Mat because I don't think it's such a big change that his character arc will be ruined in the next episodes, in the next seasons, as long as they don't keep adding stuff and like veering off further and further away from the character that we know and love. I still like that because they had to set up something, because the first episode was so fast paced and it gives you something to sink your teeth into, and it gives you something emotional. And other change that we get to see, like a big change, is Perrin. It's Perrin killing his wife. Perrin first being married and then killing his wife, and I like that as well. I know it's a trope. I usually don't like these types of very used tropes, but I mean, Wheel of Time kind of has them because there's like a wizard that comes to a town and gets 3-4 people that are very unaware of the magical world. You know, it has its tropes, and the fact that they use this trope of fridging a character in favor of developing another layer towards Perrin's character, I liked it because now you can really understand why he is so scared of being his full potential, of being violent and being very powerful, being the biggest person there is basically. And I like it because it's something visual. You get to see it, you get to see how heartbroken Perrin is about the whole ordeal. And it also helps with Perrin being so thoughtful and being so like silent throughout the episodes, because otherwise you'll be like, why isn't Perrin doing anything? Like, I get kinda why he is scared of being violent, but like I haven't seen him being violent, and still he's very like shy and very introverted. But now you get to see it, and I know that in the books is done very well. I loved how it's done in the books, but converting something from a medium to another, it needs its changes. Still, because the first episode was so fast-paced, I understand why they did that. I like how they did that. I really think that Perrin can still be Perrin, even with this massive change that he's not so innocent as he used to be. Other changes that I see, like logistical changes, like they didn't go through every inn, they didn't go to Burlon, they didn't meet people in the certain place that they met them in the books. I don't mind them, because in cinema you always cheat places, you always cheat meeting characters and do things a certain way, and those changes I don't mind. But I do mind changes that might possibly veer off into ruining a character's arc, but we're not there yet. Like, I don't know if the changes that they brought to Mat and Perrin and Rand will eventually turn them into totally different characters. So far so good. Like, I like it. It makes you more empathetic from the get-go to them, and even though it's sad that you don't get to see them as innocent as they are in the books, like Rand can flirt with a girl, he's not minded by flirting or kissing a girl, when in the books you're like expecting him to start crying if a girl notices him. They're a bit more comfortable on their own, but still I think Yosha really brings a sort of very shy and unknowing side to the character, sheep herder basically, and it's still there, but it's a bit changed. It's just the fact that it's so fast-paced, and it would have been better if it was a 90-minute or basically a movie of an episode, because then you would have had more time to settle into the characters, like better understand their motivations and their characters. So yeah, and also I didn't like the ending because it was so rushed. Moiraine just came, Tam was like, oh, I'm dying, and she was like, you're good, and he was good. But yeah, overall it's a fine episode. I like it as a book reader, and what makes me very happy is the fact that from the first episode on to the next, the things just get better and better. The episodes are better, and this is very promising. Like, the next 2 episodes are amazing. So the second episode starts with the White Cloaks, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely love the portrayal of the White Cloaks in the show. They're incredibly scary. They're very ominous. They're very vile. They're very mean and menacing. They're everything that they should be. And it's great to see that, because I really want them to explore this side of the White Cloaks, because we always hear about them hunting Aes Sedai, hunting Dark Friends, hunting people that work basically, in their opinion, for the Dark One, and them being so like and them being so unwilling to forget anything that doesn't happen in the light according to their moral standards. I think they should be very frightening, because they're basically like a cult, and I like that it comes across this way. I really like the overall vibe of the overall feel and atmosphere of the White Cloaks, their theme song and everything. The actor portraying, I think it's Eamon Valda, is amazing. Like, wow. And this is the episode that we get to see our Edmund's Field Two Rivers people traveling with Lan and Moiraine being on the run because they're tracked by Trollocs, and I really loved the scenes of them taking a beat. The first scene that comes to mind is when Rand is questioning Moiraine's motive of helping them out and getting them out of harm's way. And I love that because every single actor reacted just the way their character would. Perrin was very brooding, he was thinking things over, he didn't want to intercept in this conversation. Egwene was annoyed that Rand was yelling at Moiraine. Lan just instantly came in front of Moiraine and he was like, don't try to do anything because I'm here, I'm going to protect her. Rand was being a bit annoying, but he has a reason to, because what's Moiraine doing with them? And I really love that. Also, Mat was the guy that calmed everybody down, and he was like, okay, Rand, let's just see what's going on. This lady can shoot fire, so don't try to piss her off. We're taking a beat, we're sitting down, we're talking, and I like that. I love that. I want to see more of that, basically. And another scene that I loved throughout was the Shadar Logoth scene. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Lan is amazing. In all the episodes, Daniel Henney is amazing, and I loved how he told the boys how everything works in Shadar Logoth and everything that happens, Matt going after the dagger. And yeah, I really appreciated the fact that from the first episode into the second, they started to understand their pacing and their footing, and now we get more scenes with the characters just conversing, and we get to see like the boys singing Weep for Manatharin, which was an amazing scene. I really loved how Moiraine uses it in the show to bond with the Two Rivers folk. It's just done so well. I love Rosamund Pike, obviously, how she delivers it, and the whole scene is just a gem. And then we have more scenes with them bonding, like when Matt gives Perrin a knife, and they just, now you get to understand why they're friends. Now you get to see their friendship evolving through the whole trauma thing that is happening around them, and you get to understand why they're important to each other, basically. And Rand and Egwene have a really cute moment in Shadar Logoth, which is a very weird thing to say. Like, of all the places you can have a cute moment, you know? After Matt picks up the dagger, which is an amazing scene on its own. I love the chasing scene that happens in Shadar Logoth and how every character reacts and does things, and the fact that Matt still makes jokes in this situation, and they don't come across as being out of place. They're really funny and they feel very organic, very good. It's great delivery, basically. And the thing that I didn't like was Moiraine telling Lan that you've killed us all. Like, excuse me? Like, Lan was trying to save the situation. He was trying to do something. That's the best he can come up with. Like, he avoided like an army of Trollocs. Like, what else could he do? You know, he doesn't have the one power. But yeah, let's skipping over that, I guess. But other than that, I really liked it way better than the first episode, and I like that we got to see Egwene and Moiraine talking to each other, and Moiraine telling her that she can be an Aes Sedai as well, that she has the one power, and her teaching Egwene how to channel, taking her first steps towards being an Aes Sedai. They're very sweet. I like the way they bounce off each other, and Egwene is a very great character. I want to see more of her. I want to see more of her struggle to choose between the life she could have with Rand, to choose between the life she can have as a wisdom or an Aes Sedai, because so far it doesn't seem as big of a struggle for her. Like, she's fighting with Rand, but like, she doesn't seem to be struggling with wanting to be a wisdom anymore, or being an Aes Sedai, which is kind of weird because she wanted to be a wisdom all her life. I want to see her basically struggle a bit because it seems like she's very leisurely choosing to be an Aes Sedai, and that's why it feels a bit flat for me, Egwene, at the moment. Even though I really like Madeline's portrayal of her, I need more of a conflict in the character so I can have something to sink my teeth into, basically. So after they get split off at Shadar Logoth, and Perrin is with Egwene, Matt is with Rand, and Lan escapes with Moiraine and hopefully Bella. I hope somebody saved Bella. Like, she's the creator. Don't leave her in Shadar Logoth. I mean, she can manage herself. I'm 100% sure. But somebody tell me that Bella is okay. After Lan and Moiraine escape, there's this very cool scene with Nynaeve approaching Lan in a very violent way. She tells him that she'll basically kill him if he doesn't tell her where the Two River folk are.
If you don't take me to them right now, I'll slit your throat.
And I like that. I like Nynaeve. She is Nynaeve. Zoe is amazing, and Nynaeve is just as she is in the books. She's very feisty, she's very outspoken, can be annoying at times, which happens to be the case in the books as well. And I just love her. Like, wow. Seeing Nynaeve on my TV is amazing. I'm gushing over it. My overall thoughts on the second season. Second season, I saw it. I know everything that happens in the second season. My thoughts on the second episode, I liked it a lot better than the first episode. I like that we got to slow down a bit. We got to see the motivations and basically the core elements of each character, and we got to explore that a lot. more than in the first episode, and this is very cool to see as a reader of the series, but also as a person maybe who hasn't read the books, because now you get to understand why they're friends. Because in the first episode you're like, who are these people, basically? Yeah, the second episode is a great improvement of the first, even though I like the first as well, but like the pacing is way better. Now let's get into the third episode, which is my favorite by far. I mean, I have favorite scenes from all of the episodes, but pacing wise and story wise and character wise, everything wise, basically it's my favorite. And I love the cold open with Nynaeve. That's my favorite cold open of the episodes that we've seen so far. I just loved how caught off guard I was as a reader of the series with the Trollocs, how they interacted. It's like, wow, we're going to get like to see a hierarchy between them. I was like, oh, this Trolloc is actually worrying for his fellow Trolloc. He's like, oh, I see you got a wound there, let me bandage it up. No, he's going to eat him up. That was scary. That was absolutely terrifying. I wasn't expecting that, even though I should have. I love the fact that it managed to surprise me, even though I've read the whole series, basically. And the scene with her, like running around the woods, trying to defend herself, trying not to get murdered, is terrifying. Is absolutely terrifying. I had goosebumps. I just love the scene, and I know why people might get mad that Tam wasn't able to really fight off a Trolloc in the first episode, and he's a blade master, whereas Nynaeve, who's just a wisdom, was able. But I think it's just the element of surprise and the fact that even though Tam fought wonderfully, and I love the fact that he was a bit rusty in his moves, but you can see that he knows how to use that hair-marked blade. Nynaeve just knew how to be stealthy and wasn't caught off guard. She had time to think her next move. And I don't like the fact that we get to see Dragon's Fang all over the show, because it gives me nightmares about the Game of Thrones circle thing that we got to see throughout the show, and at the end they were like, we don't know what it means, but it looks cool. I don't want that, because the Dragon Fang actually means something, but the way they're using it, I mean, with Nynaeve, maybe, I don't know why, but like when Lan finds those sheep arranged in a Dragon Fang, why would a Myrdal do that? Why would a Fae do that? You know, it's a bit... I hope they have a reason for it, otherwise it's just going to add on to my trauma of Game of Thrones spirals. But other than that, I really like Nynaeve's scene. I know that in the books, she's the daughter of a hunter, and that's why she has the skills of tracking. But here she's an orphan, so I don't know how that adds up. But I think we'll get to understand it, because Lan asks her, how were you able to track me without me knowing? And she's like, I told you I'm going to let you ask me something, but I'm not going to answer it. So maybe she will answer it at some point, because we want to know as well. It's not just Lan that wants to know this. But I loved it, and I really enjoyed seeing Lan and Nynaeve. I love the chemistry. I love the relationship itself. It's a delight to see them. It's a delight seeing Nynaeve being the first person basically that stands up to Lan, and he being like, whoa, what's going on here? The actors play off each other so well, and the dialogue is really great. I want to see more of that. Like, I need to see more of that, and I need to see more of characters, different characters interacting with each other, because Wheel of Time is basically a story of characters that are put in this insane situation, and you get to see how these things, exterior things, change them. And if we don't get to see these like scenes, intimate scenes with characters, we're not going to be as emotionally attached or as impressed with the whole story. If we get to see, hopefully, the whole story, they need to focus more, rather than on the action, more on the characters and their dynamics. Hopefully we'll get to see more and more of that in the later episodes, the later seasons. So my hopes are still very high up. And talking about the editing, wow, was that scene in Perrin's dream amazing. Like, I loved it. I loved it on my second watch as well, when I got to see those red eyes in the window. And I just absolutely adored the way it was edited, with Perrin coming out of the door, and then that little switch with Perrin and the guy with the red eyes, and how the music just goes ominous and silent. it's just so good. Like, I absolutely adore the whole scene, and that just brings my hopes up higher from the first episode where the editing was a bit wonky. Here it's done very here it's done very well. Talking about the whole Perrin situation, it was a bit weird for me the way the Tuatan people, the Tinkers, were introduced. Like, I know from the books I got a weird vibe off of them because they have this whole ritual when you meet them and when you leave them. You have to say if you know the song, and when you leave them, if you'll go search for the song or something like that. And it's a bit weird, it's a bit cultish, but this was just strange. Like, it was a bit strange, the whole thing, but I love the fact that they have Irish accents, and I love the fact that they do stand out from the other cultures that we got to see in the first episode, so you can pinpoint Tuatan people. And I would have liked it if they were a bit more colorful because they seemed a bit bland, but you can still pinpoint them. And I like the whole vibe of Egwene and Perrin finding them, but it was just a bit weird. Also, the fact that the wolves are constantly howling at Perrin, it was a bit weird because they're just in the open air and just howling constantly. A bit weird, but maybe we'll get more of that, more understanding of why was that happening, and maybe they'll get more like in tune with the whole wolf situation. But yeah. And now my favorite part of the third episode is the Rand and Mat storyline. And I just love these two characters together and how they communicate. And I love their dialogue. I love how their story progresses with each other and the fact that we get to see them interact. And I love how Yosha really brings Rand al'Thor to screen and Barney Mat Cauthon, because they really feel like that. And I love that Rand is a bit more snarky sometimes and has his one-liners. And I just absolutely adore the intimate atmosphere of the Brain Springs. I love that we got to see more of our characters and we got to have our first interaction with the Dark Friend, which was amazingly delivered. And to be honest, I really love the way Tom Merlin was introduced. I was a bit put off at first because the song really sounds very modern, but now I love it, especially on the second and third and fourth and fifth hearing of the song. And I love that we get to see that he has a Gleeman cloak with a bunch of patches, and I think is the type of cloak that can wear it inside out, so we can get that Gleeman vibe off of him. But I just didn't like when Tom stole Mat's money. Like, he would never do that. Like, that's something that Tom would absolutely never do, especially to a kid that's very poor, and you can see that. It's weird. But then he had a little redemption arc that I really appreciated, and I really loved the scenes we get to see with Tom and Mat, because Tom basically becomes a bit of a father figure to him, and it's very, very interesting, especially since I started liking Tom in those scenes, because that's where he really brings Tom to light. And they're very cool the way that the Aiel concept was introduced to us. It didn't feel like forced information. You just learned it organically, and I loved it. And I just the scene where the Dark Friend Dana chases them is amazing. Like, it's just amazing. The twist that she's a Dark Friend is gloriously delivered, and I just loved when she was giving her whole speech about why the people of the Dark One, the Dark Friends, and everybody else chooses this path in life. It's a great, basically, representation of the Dark One's people. Like, it's very promising. The fact that we end on that scene with our characters, I loved it. I love that Tom jumped in and helped the boys, because that's definitely something that he would do. And I love just how Rand and Mat play off each other in that scene as well. It's just the core of the Wheel of Time. That's where the Wheel of Time feeling and atmosphere and characters really feel like it in the show. And the ending is great, and I love Logain. Like, I've said it a million times before, but I love Logain. I love how he looks at Moiraine. He's like, yep, I'm scary. You should be scared of me. I'm menacing. And I just need more Logain in the next episodes. I need to see Alvaro playing him, because he looks like a perfect cast for him. And my overall thoughts on the first 3 episodes of this show are that it started a bit rough. Like, it started a bit weird pacing wise and a lot of things wise, but I'm very hopeful that it'll go just higher and higher and better as the episodes drop. And I'm not minded by the changes so far because they haven't destroyed the characters. They can still bring those characters to light the way they were written, and I'm just very excited to see what comes next. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me, like for the whole 3 episodes that I've seen so far. We'll see what Bianca in the future that has seen the 4th episode will think about it, but so far so good, and I'm really excited. Like, I cannot lie, I'm one of the people that really likes it. Even though it has its issues, it's still the first season, so we got to give them the benefit of the doubt, because I need to see the ending of the series. I need to see certain scenes that are in the later books brought to television, basically. So let's get to Bianca in the future, who has seen the 4th episode. She's very lucky, and let's see what she thinks about the whole Wheel of Time series so far. Hi, future Bianca here, and I just saw the 4th episode. I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. It's become my favorite episode, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it right now. And just keep in mind that it's 5 a.m. here, so I'm a bit rambly. So first off, I just absolutely adore the cold open with Logain. I love Alvaro for the role. He just does it. Like, he's amazing. He's very threatening. He's very understanding in some ways. My cat is going bananas. Sorry. This is Loki. I'm very happy that Logain is just as cool as he is in the books. Another thread that I loved in this episode was Perrin and Egwene with the Tinkers. And I really liked the fact that we finally got to have a one-on-one with Perrin and to see the way that he processes the whole traumatic episode that he had with Layla. And I love that dialogue with him, and I forgot the Tinker's name, but I just loved how she described her trauma with her daughter, and it was in comparison with Perrin's, and you can see him mulling over the thoughts and the problems that he has, and finally starting to piece things together so he wouldn't be as constantly brooding as he's been for the past 3 episodes. And I loved that scene. I loved the way they included the Way of the Leaf, and for us to understand how the Tinkers work and all the other things in the world. And I just loved how organic it felt. It didn't feel like you were, you have to understand this. It wasn't just like a list of things for you to understand and to know, to better understand the Tuatan people. It was more of a organic thing that happened in the dialogue, especially with the song when Egwene asks Aram, what's the song about, what does it mean, what happens with it, what's the purpose of the song, and he tells her, and she's like, maybe you just already found it. And I just love those shots of people just dancing and being happy and loving their lives, which doesn't really happen in the Wheel of Time. And I really like Aram. He's so cool for the role, the actor, and the fact that they have Irish accents I appreciate a lot, because you can feel that they're from a different culture, they're from a different part of the Wheel of Time. And her dialogue with Aram was very similar to the dialogue Rand had with Dana in the last episode, and I like to see these comparisons and how they are experiencing life on their own and still going through the feelings that they have for each other. It's very cool to see. But I still want more of Egwene. I still want her more like, do I want to be a Wisdom? Do I want to be an Aes Sedai? Do I want to be with Rand? She has a lot of options, and I want to see her basically struggle to choose one of them. But I really liked it. I really like that the Tinkers are bright, like really bright right now. I love the wagons, I love the clothes, I love the way they feel like they're happy, the music, everything. I liked it. I really liked it, and I love that they explored, just as in the books, they explored parents' feelings about violence through the way of the leaf, which is cool. So I'm very pleased. I want to see how the story progresses in the show, so that's very exciting. And I'm trying not to speak about the one scene that made me cry like a baby, but that just keeps popping in my head. Next up, I want to talk about Matt and Rand and Tom. I really loved seeing them banter again, because at the end of the third episode, you can start seeing signs of Matt changing and not being the one that consoles people, but rather being the one that opposes to their ideas, and like, why would you want to go to the White Tower and be with Aes Sedai? And I love that at the beginning of the episode, Matt's just like, wow, Rand, you might be smart. Wow, that's a new wrinkle, and I like that. I like the way they integrated his sickness. Like, you can visibly see it on his face and going into his mouth constantly, which is disturbing. It's very visually interesting, and I like that Rand took initiative and was like, okay, to the people that they were, him and Matt and Tom were searching for a barn to sleep in, and the people that owned the barn caught them and were like with their arrows threatening them, and he's like the one that calmed things down and finally took up the reins of the situation. And I like to see Rand starting to finally evolve little by little. Just like I said about Perrin's dream, when that edit was very cool with the man with the red eyes, I loved the dream sequence in this episode as well. I love that he was with Matt and he told him, I'll always be there for you, everything will be fine. And then I loved when he blew the candle, how the sound went woo.
Tell me about the whistles.
The whistles got woo!
I love that effect, and I love the whole scene. Like, I loved seeing him confused as hell as to what is happening, seeing Perrin like constantly strike someone, a person, with a hammer or an axe, and seeing Matt confused, blood on his hands, and Egwene being captured by the person with the red eyes. I just loved it. I love the whole scene. It's so interesting to see their perspective on the dream world. I want to see more of that if possible. And now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the scene where Matt receives something from a little girl. It made me cry. Like, I cried when I saw that. And then Rand waking up and finding Matt in the house of the people that let them sleep in the barn, and all the people being dead. I was like, did you really make Matt a killer? Did you go there? And I was scared. I was like, wow, don't ruin Matt, please. But they didn't, and Matt was just feeling the fate, I guess, of the situation. And I liked it. It was so spooky. Like, I see you. 10 out of 10. And then Tom defending them and telling them run, and him fighting a fate was top notch. The whole scene with them, I really liked their dynamic. I really liked seeing them on screen together, like all three. And Rand's moment with Tom, where Tom tells him about his nephew, another like great moment, great character building, great world building moment, because I love these quiet moments between characters where you are fed basically information without being a chore, and it's very organic. You are entranced by the story they are telling, and you get to learn about the world, which is a great, expansive, intricate, interesting world. I like it. I really, really like it. And now let's get to the part that made me bawl like a child. So Moiraine is with Lan and Nynaeve, and they arrive at this Aes Sedai camp where they are holding Logain as a prisoner. And I just love the way Moiraine interacts with the other Aes Sedai. I love seeing more Aes Sedai, because until now we've just seen Moiraine, and I was wondering how the other actresses will approach this type of character. Very well, apparently. They did a great job, especially Alana. Like, wow. And Liandrin, obviously, she's terrifying. The whole scene with Nynaeve and Lan explaining what her parents told her in the old tongue. A great scene. I really like the way they are building up their relationship so it doesn't feel very rushed. You can see nitpicks, like basically like little moments, as we've seen in the other episode when she's like, why are you watching my back now? And I like that. I really like the way they're slowly building up their relationship and how they will interact with each other in the further episodes. And the scene with Moiraine talking when Logain escapes his shield, and the way she talks to him and she distracts his attention by telling him, oh, your power is just a little flame compared to the blazing sun of the Dragon Reborn. Goosebumps, like literal goosebumps. Like, I love Rosamund Pike as Moiraine. I cannot stress enough how well she acts and how well she portrays this balance between her like stillness of body, like she doesn't show much emotion, but you can feel the power behind those words. You can feel how strong and powerful and great of a character she is. Even though she doesn't show it, like facially, she's very still. And that's just great acting. Like, I love that. And after after Rogain escapes, they are able to shield him again, but then step in when he feels that Karine has passed away. He breaks the shield with his 2 axes. I still feel like the 2 axes are a bit weird, like they look, I don't know, 2 axes, I guess. But when he breaks Logain's shield a bit, Logain is able to break free and basically kill everyone because he broke the axes, and everyone gets stabbed to death. And I was like, what's going on? Is this like the scene with Matt when I thought he killed everybody? I was like in shock. And then I see Nynaeve, and she sees that Lan is dying. She starts screaming, and that's I start crying like a baby. Like, I couldn't control my crying. It was so good. Like, I love the way it was kept under wraps that Nynaeve can touch the one power, and how well it showed in this scene. Like, you can feel her anguish, you can feel the pain, the sorrow that you finally made a connection with someone, and now she sees him dying. And I loved it. I love Zoe as Nynaeve. She's great. She is really Nynaeve. Like, she can be a bit snarky, a bit bitchy, basically, but you can see that she has a heart of gold. And then after she heals everybody, the line that Logain delivers, and he says,
like a radiant sun.
And he sees a potential Dragon Reborn candidate, and he sees that Nynaeve is way more powerful than him. I loved it. And then when Liandrin, I think, she tells the other Aes Sedai to link so they can gentle him. That's a bit wonky because you need 13 people to gentle a person. There weren't like 13 Aes Sedai, but maybe they changed it to be like 7 or something, so it can be a more easier, realistic number to film, like 7 Aes Sedai rather than 13 constantly when you need them. But I loved the movements that they did to gentle him, and visually it looked amazing. I knew it was going to happen, but I wasn't prepared, especially since I was like already crying like a baby from Nynaeve being so cool. And yeah, I just love the episode. I cannot wait to see what happens next. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Nynaeve being a potential Dragon Reborn candidate, maybe she isn't. Like, maybe Moiraine is like, oh, actually you're too old for this. Sorry. But I still love the way her power was introduced to the story. It's very impactful. I actually cannot watch it without crying now. I mean, when I'll watch it like 4 to 5 times, I bet I'm not going to cry. But it's great. And I love the feel of the Wheel of Time. Yes, there aren't scenes from the books. Like, it's not a one-to-one adaptation of the books. It's not lines taken directly from the book into like the TV show, but it does capture the feel of the Wheel of Time. It does capture the feel of the characters, the way they banter off each other, the way they talk and feel and are, basically. And that's just what I wanted. Like, that's great, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I love the fact that even though I've read all of the books, including Newspring, I'm still taken back by what happens. Like, I'm still surprised by what happens. I'm very happy that I'm still on the edge of my seat watching it, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to know everything that happens. So this is more like a me watching something that I love rather than watching something to get like surprised by what happens. But it's not the case. Like, I'm feeling it. Like, I had this on to film right after I saw the episode, but I looked like a raccoon because I cried a lot. But yeah, I'm very happy. I'm so happy to see that they included more intimate moments with the characters, and everything is going higher and higher and better as the episodes go by. And I cannot wait to see Brandon Sanderson's favorite episode 6. So that's going to be a doozy. So comment down below and let me know, what did you think about the 4th episode? Did you like it? What you didn't like about it? And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!